it is interesting, the microphysical realm. This would be one escape for us and our cultural dilemma. Some of you may know a wonderful science fiction book called by Brian Aldiss called The Long Afternoon of Earth, which is about a world where people are 4.5 inches high, and the world is covered by a banyan forest from pole to pole. And somehow, in order to live in this savage jungle environment, the decision was made at some point long in the past, before technology was lost, to go through this shrinking process. And so people are very tiny. But we could, like a good nanotechnology, male patriarch engineering mission type goal to lay before the research and development community would be something which I envision to be like a pair of black contact lenses, which you would have surgically implanted in the inner eyelid. And then when you closed your eyes, there would be menus hanging in space. And what this would be is the cultural interface device into a culture which was entirely virtual, sustained in electromagnetic, hologrammatic hyperspace. And the only access technology would be these black contact lenses in behind your eyelids. And so you would appear to be basically Warani, naked, painted, walking around in the rainforest. But when you closed your eyes, you would be able to send and receive faxes, scan databases thousands of miles away, receive email, look at your bank balance, play games, talk to people at a distance, exchange information, have virtual sex, all these things that are promised. But the culture would have been dematerialized. This is a key thing. And again, psychedelics are important because psychedelics show the power of the imagination. That where we want to go live is the imagination. There's real estate out there, folks, and you want to get there first and stake your claim.
But Terence, that is an interesting half of the vision, I think. But actually, in an essay I wrote on astrological upswing patterns, I posited that maybe there would be the radical, the visionary technocrats, but they'd be balanced by the radical traditionalists who viewed technology as a crude literalization of innate human capacity. And these two groups could, in fact, coexist, and in fact trade off. But the radical traditionalists would be devoted to the restoration of the gene pool and would prefer their technology to be more of a telepathic nature by preference. But it would be nice to have exchanges between these groups. But I think two groups, so that we again were wedded to the material and embracing it rather than distanced more.
Well, the beauty of it would be that the only difference between these two groups would be you'd have to grab somebody, hold them down, and peel back their eyelid. And then if they were wearing the lens, you'd know they were a radical technocrat, and if they weren't, you'd know that they were a radical traditionalist, and otherwise there would be no difference.
Yeah, well, visionary technocrat, rad trad.
Yeah, right, rad trad, viz techo.
Aztecs replaced the Aztecs.
Well, but don't you actually think that once information or once technology is no longer manifest in matter, it will come to look much more like nature? In other words, the reason technology has straight lines and all that is these are engineering constraints dictated by gravity and design. If information were made of light, it would look very much like the rainforest. And then you would transcend the dualism of nature and techne, and it would just be one weird thing.
But there may well be a coevolution in the sense of everything pulsing together, that as the technology becomes outwardly manifest, the inner telepathic capacity, they mutually co-evolve at the same time. But I think one without the other is the Atlantean fallacy.
Well, the jungle at night seems very, very electrical and electronic, and you can tell that there's infrared signals and that databases are cycling and power is being used because peak users have gone offline, and just all these homeostatic regulators are working.
Even for those of us who haven't yet had the implants. That's true.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's right. Well, we're agreeing, yes.
Yeah, well, we're headed somewhere. I mean, I think that what people don't realize is that business as usual is off the menu.
Oh, it's finished.
There's no, even the straight people, the data which crosses their desks on human population, resource extraction, epidemic diseases, toxification of the environment, retreat of species, it's happening. The spin down to something is underway, and then the question is, what is it? Is it just grim death and we turn the planet into a weedy lot and then that's it? Or what about all this transcendental appetite for cosmic breakthrough that also accompanies it? It's very hard to be a rational person and tell where it's going.
Here's the blue butterfly.
Yeah, well, see, I think the rate of acceleration is so intense that it's inconceivable that there's a human future even measured in hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's all, this is it.
Yeah.
The collision is actually happening in slow motion before your startled eyes, the end of the second millennium, and Western civilization is completely exhausted. It hasn't a clue. All these wonderful methods that were going to lead us to Platonic truth and union with God and the gates of the heavenly city. The gates of the heavenly city is Spanish Harlem, and God looks like a psychotic on crack. So we have to sort of back off to the archaic moment, which was the last sane moment that we ever knew before we committed ourselves to this shell game launched by the monotheists and their stooges and so forth.
We've already had Mr. 666 as president for 8 years.
That's right.
See, I think that the idea that something is going to transform reality beyond recognition, at first, when seen through the eyes of probability theory and positivism, seems miraculous and unlikely, because you say, well, surely the end of the world happens only once every 5 billion years, so what are the odds that I will see it in my 70-year span of life? But that's not the right approach, because novelty begets novelty. And the presence of human history as a part of what's going on here and now on this planet is like the rippling on the surface of a body of water immediately before some enormous form breaks through from beneath. Human history is the annunciation call of the approaching singularity. I mean, if the singularity were not approaching, we would still be happily hurling excrement at each other in the canopies of African rainforest. It is the approach of the breakthrough being felt, anticipated across 4 or 5 million years of evolution, that draws us to erect the fragile tools of mathematics and radiotelescopy and all this other stuff in order to be there to catch the fly ball when it falls into our mitt, you see. So we are the proof of the presence of the other in the planetary ecology. Otherwise, there would just be squirrel monkeys, brine shrimp, and antelope, But we represent something else, pushing into the biological realm, mind, purpose, intentionality, for some reason. And, then the Christers and all the rest leap forward to explain why it is. But nobody knows why it is. They just flail you with some laundry list of moral do's and don'ts. That's where they come out with it. But what it is it's a complete mystery. But something is shaping us to its own vision of what we should be. History is not pushed by causal momentum toward entropy. History is pulled in ever-tightening gyre toward confrontation with the attractor that is its maker, and toward which it vectors across hundreds of thousands of years. It's something odd loose here. And the use of language and the production of art and magic and shamanic vision and high technology, all these things are feedback telling you there's a very weird form of radiation in the neighborhood. We've gone beyond the birds and the bees here to something else. And the something else is growing. It's an embryo of some sort. It's in process of concrescence, Whitehead's word, concrescence. It has an appetite for expressing itself as a nexus of novel connections, civilization based on animal organization, based on the biosphere, based on the geology of the planet, based on the dynamics of the solar system, something reaching out toward itself. And we are the stuff with which it mirrors itself. Weird.
We pulse back at it, of course. In the sense that we vote for reality with our imagination. So when people,
Well, are we thinking it up? To some degree we are. In the sense that technology, every artifact of technology began as an idea in a human mind. And technology is now shaping the destiny of the planet. Mm-hmm. This means ideas born in the human mind are now shaping the destiny of the planet. Well, what is the human mind? And what is it about the human brain, mind, body triad that allows us to download these ideas into the stream of cosmic consequentiality? Antelope don't do that. Caiman don't do that. Nobody else is downloading ideas into the swift-running current of cosmic unfoldment. Everybody else is playing the old evolutionary solitaire game with gene mutation, environmental pressure, so forth and so on. We've invented a new game.
Well, what mind are we born of?
Well, this is the question.
Is there another reality of which we are the construct and the development of, or the experiment?
Are we growing toward a dissolution of the boundary between this world and some other world? Is it the world beyond death that the shaman and the seers and all these people rave about? Does the human soul actually, is it indestructible, or does it survive the morphology of the body? And then in what dimension and under what constraints and toward what purpose? It's all questions. Nothing is secure. Science has told us very little of what we actually are interested in when we think about how we're born out of blackness and go down into the earth after a very short time. You just get a glimpse. It's like a DMT trip. You barely get your sea legs before they're saying, "Deja vu, deja vu."
So since nothing's secure in the dream mind body, we are the seeds of the children in the unborn world.
Sounds good to me.
There's a line in a Christian hymn that I like. In the sweet by and by shall we meet on that beautiful shore.
Got it.
That's it. By the water of Babylon.
Well, I think a lot of people think we're preparing for disembodiment, and I think a lot of that, there's a lot of people believe in that.
You mean the glory and
That we're not the rapture, not that disembodiment.
not the rapture.
Not with those people. I'm talking about
Not
psychedelic
without those
seekers
people either.
who are.
Well, but all of
operating the
these are
consciousness to
different
survive
takes.
death,
They're all different takes on this intimation of an ontological bolt of lightning.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen. It could happen. Long is the faith. But look what's come and gone. I mean, much has come and gone since the mushroom munching ancestors of the African dawn moment. And we say the world never changes, but on the other hand, Babylon is ruins, and so much has happened, and in such a little bit of time. I mean, 10,000 years ago, the curtain had barely risen, and then, just like the monkeys go berserk, and before you know it, instruments are being hurled out of the solar system, the human genome is being probed, radiation levels are rising, the ozone hole's disappearing, the ice caps are in retreat. It's like they just pulled the plug. 10,000 years, it's as catastrophic as an asteroid impact from the point of view of most ecosystems, Just blam, the slow collision, not this time with an iron, a chondracious chondrite, but with a mind. Mind arose on this planet, or came to this planet, or emerged out of this planet, or something. But the moment that it did, in its ability to non-genetically express itself, codes, there was some breakthrough in coding ability and information manipulation, and they were off to the races. And the momentum of these processes is now virtually unstoppable. Nobody knows where this is all going, and there's no plan. There's no plan.